the image?
Very light, very dark.
That's as focused as it's gonna get.
Where's Jasmine? Jasmine?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Jasmine? Jasmine?
Hello, world.
Hello, Samuel.
Hey, Sam.
I've been waiting for 71.5 years to meet you all. I got into this sacred geometry when I started teaching 6th graders math science inner city for LA Unified School District. And I was looking for a way to engage the students in math. So I created an original curriculum called Geometric Drawing, the Math Art Connection. And I did that with the students, and I did this program with math teachers. And when I did the adults, I injected metaphysics, and I did that for 10 years. And then I decided I wanted to go public. So I've been doing for over 10 more years these PowerPoint presentations. And this is a shortened version of that because I only have a half an hour. So let's see what we can accomplish. Okay. So this is, I handed, did everyone get a paper?
Yes.
This is, I have a spiritual teacher in the Netherlands. His name is Michael Spector. He's a true mystic. And I've met a lot of people who call themselves spiritual, but this guy lives it, breathes it, talks it, and he's the real deal. So he gave me this information, and I put it together into this meditation, and I thought I would share it with you. We'll do a version of it, and then you can practice at home if you're so inspired. So if you look at the symbol or on the chart you have, David, did you want to get one?
I remember, I see it.
Oh, you're amazing. Okay, so you inhale, and then as you exhale, you slightly lift your chin and receive the light from above. It's 4 counts for each part. There's 4 parts. And then you feel your chest expand with the in-breath as you open to the love in your heart center. 2, 3, 4. And then you hold your breath and contract your pelvic muscles as you gather your power for 4 beats. And then you exhale and relax with gravity into the earth field of material action. So it's light, love, power, action. Light, love, power, action. And it's connected to the Kabbalah, which is, these are Hebrew letters. The top letter is Yod, then the heart center is Hey, and then the body is Vav, and the legs are Hey. Okay, so let's start with the heart center. So breathe in 4 counts. Feel the love in your heart. Then hold the breath and contract your pelvis. And then exhale into the earth. Then hold the exhale above your head, feeling the light. So it's inhale, love, contract the pelvis into power, your power center. Then exhale into the earth, into action. And then hold the exhale into the light above your head. So the Kabbalah is a way of translating spirit into matter. So by focusing on this symbol and using the aspects of it, light, love, power, action. You connect to the way spirit translates into matter, and use your body, and you're breathing in, holding, breathing out and holding. And if you practice it, it can be a very powerful meditation for connecting the spirit to physical, translating the pure spirit from above into matter and action in the earth. So if I had more time, we can really practice this, but I have a ton of pictures for you. So there's Einstein, and he had two sides to his brain like all of us. The left side, which was very serious, and the right side, which can be sort of humorous and creative. Okay? The most beautiful thing that we can experience is, this is a quote from him. The most beautiful thing we can experience is the mysterious. It is the source of true art and science. He or she to whom this emotion is a stranger who can no longer pause to wonder and stand rapt in the awe is as good as dead. Their eyes are closed. So keep your spirit alive, keep your wonderment in the state of wonder, and be all you can be. Okay, if the doors of perception are cleansed, everything could appear to man as it is, infinite. So we've contracted infinity into the present, what's in front of us. But behind all that is infinity, infinite possibility. Okay? And ultimately, we need to remember and learn to be in the now, because that's where the power is, that's where the action is, that's where the possibilities are. When we forget that, we go into an unknown, confusing, not real space. When you're in the now, you're present, you're clear, you're focused, you can be a tremendous source of accomplishment. Okay, these are the, can you guys see this?
Not very well.
Not very well? Okay.
Right.
So, okay, this is just sort of in sacred geometry. You start with a sphere, and sphere becomes another sphere, and there's a progression. One thing leads to another. It's amazing how it evolves from the void to the creation of a sphere, and then that develops into a whole universe. And we are have within ourselves the capacity to develop our own universes. Okay? And there's a relationship between the tree of life becomes the flower of life, becomes the fruit of life, becomes the seed of life. So it's a circular progression. It keeps on moving in a circle. Okay, next. And another way to understand dimensions is the point is 0 dimensions. The line consists of 2 points. That's 1 dimension. The triangle, it's 3 points connected, is 2 dimensions. That's like writing on the blackboard, it's 2 dimensions. And then you go into what we live in, most of us, most of the time, until we evolve somewhere else, to the pyramid. It's 3 dimensions. And a way of visualizing the 4th dimension from a geometric perspective is you can take a hexagon, which is a square that's 3-dimensional. So you take a square, open it up into 6-sided hexagon. Hexa is 6. And then each of those squares you can open up. So the one square becomes 1 plus 6 all around it. That's like making a dimensional shift. And that's a 4th dimensional crop circle that showed up in England. It's like when you look at it one way, it's like 3 dimensions. You look at it another way, it's like 4 dimensions.
Can't really see it.
And that's a fifth dimensional pendant. It's called a pentaract. Penta means 5. And that's the sixth dimension. Consciousness is oneness with the sparks of God within all souls and all life ever created by God. The all that is, everywhere. It can be called the miracle space. And I won an award at the INAS, International New Age Wholesale Show in Denver with that design. And this is what came to me about sacred geometry. I do stream of consciousness writing, and I ask questions and I see what comes through. And if I try to focus on what I'm doing, it's confusing, but later on when I read it, it's very clear. It comes from a higher part of myself. So, sacred geometry captures the vital essence of the makeup of the universe. It presents in mathematical terms, thank you, the secrets of how life is born from a single cell and grows into the magnificence of creation. It's a progression. It moves from simplicity to duality and three-dimensional manifestation gently, effortlessly, and freely. It's a flow. In the miracle, it is the miracle of creation unfolding in natural order, ascending to new heights of understanding and human conceptual liberation. It allows us to be refreshed and reborn to the truth of who we are in a way that supports life. If you're trying to decide whether to follow a certain teacher or a certain program or philosophy, you ask yourself, does this support life? Or is it counter life? And if it doesn't support life, that's a giant red flag. It's like, no, not this one. As you grow in your development, you'll develop more discernment. You'll be able to more easily tell which direction not to go. And there's a lot of things out there that are not worth pursuing. And the more you grow, eventually you'll trust your own higher guidance. Okay. So this is it comes from the right eye of Horus, which is an ancient Egyptian school from Akhenaten. And there's a correlation between this and the book of Genesis in the Bible. You know, the 6 days of creation. So, go back please. So, God in the void, this is sort of a theory, was lonely, or it wanted some entertainment. So it decided to expand on the x-axis, on the y-axis, and on the z-axis. And then it connected those, It connected those points and eventually formed an octagon, an eight-sided figure. And then God spun it and became a sphere. And that sphere was the beginning of creation. And on the first day of creation, that sphere created another sphere. And for 6 days, it kept on replicating itself until it had 6 spheres around the original one. And that was the 6 days of creation, just like in Genesis. And then God rested, and we have the Sabbath. Anyways, let's go on. It's called the Seed of Life. There's a drawing. Go ahead. And that's the Seed of Life pendant. I have like 65 different designs. After teaching sacred geometry for about 12 years, I wanted something to represent it. And so I searched the world for something beautiful to wear. And I found a pendant that I liked in Australia, and I bought it. And I started wearing it around LA, and strangers were stopping me in the street and saying, "Where can I get one?" So a light went up in my head, and I decided I would start selling them wholesale. And then I put up a website, and the people in India who are making the pendants, they contacted me, and they said, you know, we can sell directly to you. And that it was the beginning of a wonderful over 12-year relationship. And in fact, their son, Ritik, he's helping me with my website and my social media marketing. So we really have it's like a extended family. I went to see them 5 years ago, and I remember having a spiritual discussion with Ritik and Ishu. He was like 17 and she was 19 at the time. And I went into a really high spiritual conversation, and they were right there with me. And I said, wow, these kids are very evolved. Anyways, next. That's the flower of life. That's when you expand the fruit of life into the next iteration. When you expand it out, it becomes the flower of life. And then there's a flower of life design. And you see them throughout all the civilization in ancient architecture, sculpture. It seems like a universal symbol. Okay? And there's the seed of life, the flower of life design in nature. Okay? And there's the flower of life pendant. What do you know? I just keep making these. I'm coming out with 2 new ones, by the way, even though I have 65. And you know, you can go overboard on things, but I can't stop. You know, it's like a drug addiction, except it's sacred geometry. And I saw a 10th dimensional Arcturian Space Force symbol about 2 months ago that showed up as a crop circle in England. And so I sent the picture to India, and they're making that for me right now. And we might start a club of people who get the Arcturian Star Force symbol and meet once a week on Zoom or something. And the other symbol I saw just flashed on my screen. I see a lot of stuff. I have a pendant that's called the I Am. It's the human, and then the higher self, and then spirit. And it just one progression to the other. And then in that symbol there was a octagon, horizontal. So I call it the I Am infinite. I Am infinite heart. So they're making that one for me too. And I just know it's going to be beautiful. Just like all of you. Okay? And there's a harmony in how the planets revolve around each other. There's a divine intelligence behind it all. Even if you're an atheist, which I was the first 20 years of your life, you can't deny the intelligence and the synchronicity and the power and the organization of it all. It's not just random, it's real. There is geometry in the human, in the humming of the strings. There's music in the spacing of the spheres. Pythagorean. Okay? Leonardo Paisano Bigelow, his pen name was Leonardo Fibonacci. He traveled a lot with his father, who was a merchant, and he noticed that there was a certain patterning that showed up in nature. And it's one leaf grows into another, and then those 2 new leaves grow into another, and there's a progression. Go ahead. And you put the original number underneath and the new number on top. And as you get to higher and higher fractions, it turns out it's close to 1.618 ... That's a transcendental number. So if a number never quite resolves itself to an exact number, then it's transcendental. That's called phi, and the same is true for pi, 3.14 ... It's like you're flying to New York and it's constantly navigating back to direct center. Well, this is used in the Fibonacci rectangle. There's 1 and 1 and 2, and then 1 and 2 is 3, and 2 and 3 is 5, etc. And if you join the diagonals, next one, if you join the diagonals of each of those boxes, you have a golden mean spiral, which shows up everywhere. Go ahead. So our bodies has that ratio. If you take this joint and add it to this joint, you have the whole finger. And that proportion is all over our bodies. And it correlates to the divine proportion, 1.618. The vegetative universe opens like a flower from the Earth's center, in which is eternity, the microcosm. It expands from stars to the mundane shell, and there it meets eternity again, the macrocosm. And can you go back? And it meets eternity again, both within and without. So we're as above, so below. Microcosm, macrocosm. Everything is related. We're all connected on many, many levels. William Blake was a famous poet in the late 1800s, early 1900s. He was a true mystic. Okay? And that's a golden mean spiral on a shell. Go ahead. And our ear is a golden mean spiral. And our fingerprint is a golden mean spiral. Flowers, golden mean. And the school of fish, golden mean. And this is one of my favorite quotes. Spiral is a spiritualized circle. In the spiral form, the circle uncoiled, unwound, has ceased to be vicious. It has been set free. You know the story of Jonathan Livingston Seagull. He didn't want to be like all the other seagulls. He wanted to break free and do his thing. Well, that as we evolve, that's what it takes. You have to break free of your, like Carolyn Mace talks about, it's part of the natural evolution is at a certain point, you can't just rely on your culture or tribe that you were born into. You have to break free and become your own person and have a personal relationship with Spirit or God.
Yes.
And so when you break free out of the circle, you become a spiral, which is very beautiful. And there's no end to it. Okay? There's a spiral in the ocean. Go ahead. And that's tornado, cyclone. Golden mean spiral. That's the equilateral triangle with the golden mean spiral that comes out of it. Okay. And spirals in nature and pine cones. Pine cones everywhere. And that's the pine cone in the Vatican. It correlates to our pineal gland. And once we grow spiritually and clean up the toxins in our pineal gland, it's like our radio station to God opens up, and we can be directed from within, from our higher nature, which is connected to Source. So we become independent, and we have infinite power because we're operating as an agent for God. And we need to surrender and be humbled, but we also are serving the divine, which you become part. It's like if you want to be part of the most powerful gang in LA, you might as well join the police force. So, your choice. So, Tesla, he said, my brain is only a receiver. In the universe, there is a core from which we obtain knowledge, strength, inspiration. I have not penetrated into the secrets of this core, but I know that it exists. I think he was being humble. I think he did penetrate. And that's how he was able to come up with all those great inventions that a lot of us are benefiting from now. Those are golden mean spirals. More golden mean spirals. More golden mean spirals. And there's a sunflower pendant, which is golden mean spirals multiples. By the way, many years ago I read a book called Mandalas by Jose and Miriam Arguelles. Jose Arguelles was a Mayan scholar, and he was the man behind the harmonic convergence of 1987. And after reading that book, they had pictures that he and his wife had drawn, mandalas. Everywhere I looked for half an hour, all I saw was mandalas. And it was a phenomenal experience, but I can't deny that it happened, even though I went back to normal vision. This is what we call normal vision in the regular day. But once you have those kinds of experiences, change your life for life. It shows how much we create our reality. So the possibilities are limitless. Okay. That's a sunflower showed up as a crop circle. Go ahead. That's another crop circle. Lots of crop circles. Some of them they claim are man-made, but the guys that were most famous for those died. So it takes some of these, they're so huge and they show up overnight, it's physically impossible to justify that they were made by man. I think they're made by a higher intelligence that's trying to get us to wake up. Anyways, go ahead. There's a crop circle again. That's a Mayan headdress crop circle. The more feathers in your headdress, the more power you have. There's a Mayan headdress pendant. Another crop circle. Tube torus. Tube torus is something we have around our body. It's an energy that, it's a magnetic energy that comes up through the center of our body and around, and then up through our feet again. And the Earth has a tube torus around it. So what we have to do is get our tube torus in alignment with the planet's tube torus, and then we start to resonate the same Schumann resonance, and we start to move and groove with the Earth. And it's a way to get connected, more connected. Okay. That's a tube torus pendant. That's a golden mean spiral, artistically. To evolve, you need to dive into your own void. Most people are afraid of that, and so they keep looking outside for the answer. I've been guilty of that most of my life. I'm an extrovert, and instead of meditating more, I often look for the answer outside of me, which is a good thing in our culture. To be successful, it's like you need to be extroverted to a certain extent, because everybody else seems like they're extroverted. But some people are actually introverted, and they find meditation much easier to go within and find the answers. And ultimately, I think that's what we need to do as we get closer to the great transition, where we get to meet our maker, maybe. Okay. There's spirit coming through. Okay, so that's a tube torus. That's the tube torus around our body. Okay, now this is basic sacred geometry. This is a golden rectangle. For something, it's not. One side is 1, and the longer side is 1.61a. Go ahead. There you go. So there's a ratio, there's a proportion. It shows up over and over again. It was very popular in ancient Greece. All of their art, architecture, and sculpture was based on the divine proportion. And then in Rome, they switched away from that. They went into a more militaristic way of thinking, the music, the way they treated the people. And eventually that culture died, and we went into the Dark Ages. And I think the fact that they went away from the divine proportion is part of the reason why things started to fall apart. So a lot of companies, they're not dummies. They want to make more money. So they use the golden proportion in their advertising. Okay, go ahead. Toyota, Cadillac, the Eiffel Tower, the golden rectangles of the Parthenon in ancient Athens. And these are the ways, this is about the golden proportion. Go next. That's Jessica Simpson, and she has a very pretty face. And why is that? It's based on how close her face is to the golden ratio. The proportions of the nose and the eyes and the length of her chin. The innate beauty is based on divine proportion. The more you bring divine proportion into your life with art, music, sculpture, the more close you'll be to the divine resonance of the way things function best. See, the Creator is constantly trying to create equilibrium on the planet. In fact, we can't not have equilibrium because then the whole universe would fall apart. So even though things seem chaotic, from a higher perspective, things are constantly, moment by moment, being balanced. So don't fight it. Go with the flow. Be a Taoist. There's the Dionysian man. That was created by Leonardo da Vinci, who brought us out of the Dark Ages into the Renaissance. Okay? That's his self-portrait. He was a Renaissance man. He was multi-talented. There's the Mona Lisa, Divine Proportion in the Golden Triangle. The Last Supper, very famous painting. And that's the Vesica Pisces. Remember we talked about the sphere, creating another sphere out of it? You put them together, and if they have the same radius, the area that they share, it's like a Venn diagram. The area is the Vesica Pisces. Our eyes is our Vesica Pisces. Go ahead. Oh, what do you know? There it is. Okay, and then we're able to see. It's electromagnetism. So electricity is going one way and magnetism is going another, and that allows us, through the auspices of the brain, to see. You are the aperture through which the universe is looking at and exploring itself. My first spiritual teacher, Daniel Bloxham, in 1971, he told me, I was a student at UCLA at the time, and he told me to look at the world as if God is looking through my eyes. And I was very confused, 20-something. I was in my early 20s, not knowing where I fit in or anything. And that was my small eye. And then when I did that, I would pop into my big eye. And I became one with the universe, and I went into bliss states. And they would last 2 or 3 minutes. And then I'd pop back into my 20 troubled self, and I did that back and forth for like 3 years. It took me to finally integrate the two. It's a process. You got to work at it. Okay. There's a golden mean, a flower of life inside of your eye. There's the Vesica Pisces. Go ahead. And there's some beautiful art. And there's the womb from which all things are born. And what happens is the female has the egg, the male has the sperm, and they join together to form a zygote. And that divides into 2, and then it divides again into 4, and then it divides again into 8. That's called the egg of light. Egg of life. And at that point, we are all exactly the same. All of us. And then something happens. It's called the blast. It's not an explosion, but it's an implosion. And that's the blast. And that's when we begin to individuate. And we're all sort of similar, but we're all sort of a little different. And there's someone who really had their act together. She's prepared for any kind of weather. We have to live our lives that way. Be prepared. And there's these divine sacred geometry symbols in the rose windows of the cathedrals, and in the ceilings, and in the architecture, and in the stained glass windows. It's everywhere. I went through India, I saw this all over the place. And you see these all over the place. And in Teotihuacan, which that's the Pyramid of the Sun, it's half an hour's driving from Mexico City, north of Mexico City. And I was there and I was meditating on the top of the Pyramid of the Sun, and I kept on meditating. And so they had to throw me out because they were closing. And that's where I came up with the idea of creating a fellowship that met every week in my home in Santa Monica. It's called Transformational Friends of Santa Monica. We met every Wednesday night for a year and a half. and anybody that came into my home was welcomed, and we all sat in a circle. And I didn't tell them how to meditate. It was just silent meditation. And I used music to relax people into the meditation. Half an hour of silence, and then I'd play inspirational music to bring them out of it. And if anybody complains about the meditation being too long, I said, well, you don't have to come. And then after that, we all introduced ourselves, talked about what we did and what we had to share, information, events. And then we had a speaker or a movie, anything that was life positive. And then I'd have a whole table of healthy food. And anybody that walked in my door could be uplifted on all levels and have fellowship with our brothers and sisters. And we had like a community. After a year and a half, I did it on a larger scale at the local Quaker house in Santa Monica. We had up to 70 people. And then after about 2.5 years, I burnt out. I wasn't good at delegating. I wasn't good at getting volunteers to help. I did it mostly all myself. And then I met Pauline, we're celebrating our 30th wedding anniversary on April 17th. And she helped me. So that made it a little easier. Okay. So that's a labyrinth. And I have they had those in Egypt originally. You walk the labyrinth, and that prepared you for going into the Holy Temple. A maze, you walk it, and it takes you in all kinds of directions. You can get lost, but the labyrinth, you keep... Am I done?
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
Parting word.
Okay. May you all find the labyrinth. What the labyrinth is, it's like the brain. It goes in and out of itself, and it can help your brain unwind itself. So may you all find your labyrinth inside of your brain and meditate on that and be liberated and be freed up from the circle where we repeat everything over and over again. And then we get free of that, and we become a spiral, and we go to the heights. Our purpose here is to evolve and to be all we can be. And it's your choice whether you want to claim that, but it's there for you. You have infinite power, infinite possibility. One person can be as powerful or more powerful than 1 million people if they're very evolved. You can make... Edward here is constantly teaching people about forgiveness, day in, day out. You find something that you're good at and become great at it, and then walk your walk, talk your talk, make a difference, accept the challenges of life, and grow and learn. And that's all I have to say.